Before we dive in, it's crucial to understand that this video is for informational purposes only and is not legal or financial advice. Every divorce is unique, and state laws vary dramatically. This presentation is designed to empower you with knowledge so you can ask the right questions and have more effective conversations with your attorney and financial advisor. Please consult with qualified professionals for advice tailored to your specific situation. Imagine you've spent the last 20 years of your life building a future. Every single paycheck, a piece of your hard work went into your 401k. You watched it grow through market ups and downs, you saw it cross that six-figure mark, and you felt a sense of security. That number on the statement wasn't just money. It was your retirement. It was your freedom. It was your promise to yourself of a comfortable future. Then the ground shifts beneath your feet. The word divorce is spoken, and suddenly that number, your number, is on a legal document. An attorney is telling you that half of it, or maybe even more, might not be yours anymore. Your stomach absolutely sinks. The confusion, the fear, the anger. It's overwhelming. How can 2 decades of your sacrifice and discipline saving be sliced in half with the stroke of a pen? You start hearing strange, intimidating acronyms like QDRO. You hear complicated terms like marital property versus separate property. You're told that it doesn't even matter whose name is on the account. It feels like you're trying to learn a foreign language during the most stressful, emotionally draining time of your life. And the stakes could not be higher. One wrong move, one simple misunderstanding of the rules, could cost you tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars and completely derail the retirement you've been planning for your entire career. It's a financial nightmare, and for millions of Americans, it's a reality. This is exactly why I made this video. We are going to cut through all the noise and the complex legal jargon. We're going to give you a clear step-by-step explanation of exactly how a 401k is typically divided in a divorce in the United States. We will cover the single most important legal document you absolutely need to know about. We'll explain the critical difference between how different states view your retirement savings, which can change everything. And most importantly, we will walk you through the process so you can understand what's happening, what your rights are, and how to protect the nest egg you worked so incredibly hard to build. By the end of this presentation, the confusion will be gone. You will have the clarity and the confidence to navigate this difficult process and advocate for the financial future you deserve. So let's start with the absolute foundation, the single most important concept you have to grasp before we go any further: the difference between marital property and separate property. This distinction is the bedrock upon which every decision about your 401k will be made. Think of it like this. During your marriage, you and your spouse created a financial partnership. The assets acquired by that partnership are considered marital property. It doesn't matter whose paycheck bought it. It doesn't matter whose name is on the title or the account. If it was earned, purchased, or acquired from the day you said "I do" to the day you legally separate, it generally belongs to the marriage. It's part of the pot that gets divided. Separate property, on the other hand, is everything that's yours and yours alone. This typically includes assets you owned before the marriage, a direct inheritance you received that was left only to you, or a personal gift given specifically to you during the marriage. The key, however, and this is critical, is that you must have kept that property separate. If you inherited $50,000 and deposited it into a joint checking account that was used for groceries and bills, you may have accidentally converted that separate property into marital property through a process called commingling. So what does this mean for your 401k? This is where the light bulb goes on for most people. The entire balance in your 401k is almost never what's on the negotiating table. Only the marital portion of the account is subject to division. Let's make this real. Imagine a man named Mark. Mark started his career at 25 and immediately began contributing to his 401k. At age 30, he gets married. On his wedding day, he has a respectable $50,000 in his 401k account. That $50,000 is his separate property. It's his free and clear. Mark and his spouse build a life together for the next 15 years. They have kids, buy a house, and he continues to contribute to his 401k from every paycheck he earns. Now at age 45, they've made the difficult decision to divorce. Mark logs into his retirement account and sees the balance, $500,000. His first thought is panic. Is she entitled to half of this? $250,000. The answer almost certainly is no. Remember, only the marital portion is divisible. The contributions he made during the 15-year marriage, and all the market growth on those contributions, that's the marital portion. But here's the million-dollar detail that so many people miss. It's not as simple as just subtracting his premarital $50,000 from the final $500,000 balance. Why? Because that initial $50,000 didn't just sit in a box. It was invested. It grew, it earned dividends, it compounded right alongside all the new money he was putting in. That passive, market-driven growth on his original separate property is also considered his separate property. So, the true marital portion is the total value, $500,000, minus his premarital $50,000, and minus all the investment gains that the initial $50,000 generated over the 15 years of marriage. Calculating this isn't simple guesswork. It often requires a financial expert, like a forensic accountant, to perform a detailed tracing analysis. They'll look at old account statements to see exactly how that premarital portion performed over time. This single step can literally save you tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. It is absolutely crucial to understand that you must separate the premarital portion and its own growth from the marital portion. That remaining amount, that is the pot of money we're talking about dividing. Okay, so now that we've identified the correct pot of money, how do we actually divide it? This is where the laws of your specific state take over, and the United States is split into two very different legal camps. You either live in a community property state or an equitable distribution state. Knowing which one you're in is non-negotiable. First, let's talk about community property states. There are 9 of them: Arizona, California, Idaho, Louisiana, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, Washington, and Wisconsin. In these states, the law views the marital partnership as a 50-50 enterprise. All marital property, including the marital portion of that 401k, is presumed to be owned equally by both spouses. Therefore, the starting point for division is a clean, straightforward 50-50 split. If the marital portion of Mark's 401k was calculated to be, say, $300,000, then in a community property state like California or Texas, the default division would be $150,000 for him and $150,000 for his spouse. It's simple, it's clean, and it's the law of the land in those 9 states. Now, for the other 41 states, the system is called Equitable Distribution. And this is where things get much more subjective. The word equitable means fair, and in the eyes of the court, fair does not always mean equal. While a 50-50 split is still a very common outcome, especially in longer marriages, it is not guaranteed. Instead of a rigid rule, a judge in an equitable distribution state like Florida, New York, or Illinois will look at a whole list of factors to determine what a fair and just division looks like for your specific situation. What are those factors? Well, they can include the length of the marriage. A court is far more likely to award a 50-50 split in a 20-year marriage than in a 2-year marriage. They'll look at the age and physical and emotional health of each spouse. A spouse who is 60 years old with a chronic illness has a much different future ahead than a healthy 35-year-old, and the court can take that into account. Crucially, they will look at the income and earning potential of each person. If one spouse is a surgeon earning $500,000 a year, and the other spouse stayed home to raise the children and has been out of the workforce for 15 years, the court will not ignore that massive disparity. The judge has the power to award the lower-earning spouse a larger share of the marital assets, including the 401k, to help them get back on their feet and to acknowledge their contributions. And that brings up the most important factor of all, the contribution of each spouse to the marriage. This is not just about who earned the paycheck. The law in every equitable distribution state explicitly recognizes that the contributions of a homemaker, managing the household, raising children, supporting the other's career, are of immense economic value. These non-financial contributions are given real weight in the decision-making process. The court understands that the high-earning spouse's career success was likely made possible, in part, by the sacrifices and support of the spouse at home. The division of the 401k can be a way the court acknowledges and compensates for that shared effort. The court will also consider the standard of living established during the marriage, and what assets and debts each party will be left with after the divorce. The 401k is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. It's a balancing act. Perhaps one spouse keeps the family home, which has significant equity. To make things fair, the other spouse might then receive a larger percentage of the 401k. It's all about achieving a final outcome that is equitable for both parties as they move forward into their separate lives. So, to recap the two systems, community property states start with a 50-50 rule for all marital assets. Equitable distribution states start with a blank slate and use a long list of personal and financial factors to arrive at a division the judge believes is fair, which may or may not be 50-50. Understanding this fundamental difference is the first step in setting realistic expectations for your own divorce settlement. Now that we understand what part of the 401k is on the table and the two major legal frameworks for dividing it, how does the money actually get from one person's account to the other? This is where 90% of people, and even some inexperienced lawyers, make a catastrophic tax-heavy mistake that can cost them thousands in penalties. The secret is a special legal document with a strange-sounding name. A document the IRS requires to make this transfer happen tax-free. And that document is called a QDRO. QDRO. It sounds like something out of a Star Wars movie, a name for a droid, but it actually stands for Qualified Domestic Relations Order. Let's break that down because every single word is critical. Qualified means it meets the specific, strict requirements of federal law and the retirement plan itself. Domestic relations means it comes from a state law proceeding, like a divorce or legal separation. And order is the most important word of all. A QDRO is not a suggestion. It's not a form you fill out. It is a legally binding court order, signed by a judge, that acts as a set of instructions for the person managing the 401k. Think of the 401k plan administrator, the Fidelity, the Vanguard, the Charles Schwab of the world, as a highly trained, unthinking security robot guarding a vault. This robot has one prime directive: only give money to the employee whose name is on the account. If anyone else, even an ex-spouse with a divorce decree in hand, comes asking for money, the robot will say, "Access denied. Not in my programming." The divorce decree tells the robot that the money should be divided, but it doesn't provide the specific code to override its prime directive. The QDRO is that code. It's a special, legally recognized command that tells the robot, "Stand down. I have a new directive from the court. You will create a new account for this person, the alternate payee, and you will transfer this exact amount of money into it. And you will do so without setting off any of the tax or penalty alarms." Without this special order, the robot simply cannot and will not act. So why is this piece of paper so ridiculously important? It comes down to one thing: protecting you from a tax nightmare. The IRS has very strict rules about taking money out of a 401k before retirement. If you do, they see it as a distribution and they want their cut. Let's paint a picture of what happens without a QDRO. Let's say David has $300,000 in his 401k. He and his wife, Emily, get divorced and the settlement says she is entitled to half, so $150,000. David, trying to be efficient, calls his 401k provider and says, "I need to withdraw $150,000 and give it to my ex-wife as part of our divorce." This is where the financial train wreck begins. The 401k provider, following IRS rules, will treat this as an early withdrawal by David. First, they are required to withhold 20% for federal income taxes right off the top. That's $30,000 gone instantly. So they send David a check for $120,000. But that's not the end of it. The full $150,000 is considered taxable income to David for that year. If David is in the 24% federal tax bracket, he owes $36,000 in federal taxes, plus state taxes. He's already had $30,000 withheld, so he'll owe at least another $6,000 come tax time. But wait, it gets worse. Because David is 45 years old, well under the retirement age of 59 and a half, the IRS also slaps him with a 10% early withdrawal penalty. That's another $15,000. Let's add it up. To get Emily her $150,000, David has just incurred a tax and penalty bill of $51,000. $51,000 vanished into thin air. All because he tried to do the right thing the wrong way. He has to somehow come up with the extra $30,000 to pay Emily the full amount he owes her, on top of his massive tax bill. This is a catastrophic, yet tragically common financial blunder. The QDRO is the legal shield that prevents this entire disaster. It's a special exception carved out by the IRS specifically for divorce. When a properly executed QDRO is presented, the transfer of funds from one spouse to the other is considered a rollover, not a distribution. The money moves from the employee's 401k directly into a retirement account for the ex-spouse, typically an IRA. No taxes are due. No 10% penalty is assessed. The full $150,000 moves from David to Emily intact. She will only pay taxes on that money years down the road when she withdraws it in her own retirement, just as David would have. The QDRO preserves the tax-deferred status of the money, saving the couple from collectively losing a massive chunk of their nest egg to preventable taxes and penalties. So how do you get one? This is where many people stumble. A divorce decree that says the 401k will be split is not a QDRO. It's the statement of intent. The QDRO is the separate, highly specific legal document that actually executes that intent. You have to get one drafted, signed, and approved, and this process is not automatic. It's a common and devastating mistake to finalize a divorce and assume the 401k part is done. Years can go by. Let's imagine a couple, Susan and Tom. Their divorce decree from 2018 says Susan gets 50% of Tom's 401k. They part ways thinking it's all settled. They never filed a QDRO. Fast forward to today. Susan is trying to buy a condo and needs her funds. She calls Tom's old 401k company. They have no idea who she is. They tell her the account is still 100% in Tom's name, and they can't speak to her about it. Panic sets in. She calls Tom, but he's remarried. His new wife is now listed as the 100% beneficiary on his account. If Tom were to pass away tomorrow, his new wife would legally inherit the entire 401k. And Susan would get nothing. The divorce decree would be worthless. Now Susan and Tom have to go back, hire attorneys all over again, and try to draft a QDRO years after the fact. It's a nightmare. The account value has changed. They have to argue over how to account for years of market gains and losses. It's more expensive, more stressful, and infinitely more complicated than if they had just done it at the time of the divorce. The process has to be done deliberately and correctly. First, the QDRO is drafted. This isn't a DIY project. It must be prepared by an attorney, preferably one who specializes in QDROs, because every retirement plan has its own unique, picky set of rules. A generic boilerplate QDRO will be rejected, wasting time and money. A smart attorney will often send a draft to the 401k plan administrator for pre-approval to iron out any issues before it goes to a judge. Once drafted and approved by both parties, it's submitted to the court. A judge signs it, making it an official order. This signed order is then sent to the plan administrator, who puts it through a final review. Once they qualify it, the magic happens. They segregate the ex-spouse share of the money, typically creating a new, separate account in their name. Only then is the division truly complete. The QDRO is not just a piece of legal red tape. It is the single most important document for protecting your share of a retirement account in a divorce. It is the firewall against devastating taxes, the legal key to unlock the funds, and the final, necessary step to ensure the financial agreements made in a divorce are actually honored. So now that we know what a QDRO is and why it's a non-negotiable part of the process, the next critical question is, how exactly does the 401k company calculate the final number? Is it 50% of the balance on the day you separated? The day you filed for divorce? The day the judge signs the order? The answer might shock you because getting this one date wrong can mean a difference of tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is the million-dollar question, sometimes literally. Let's call it the valuation date. This single date is the snapshot in time the court uses to determine the total value of the marital portion of your 401k. Think of it like this. Everything in the 401k account up to the date of marriage is the separate property of the person who owns the account. Everything contributed, and all the growth on those contributions, from the date of marriage until this magical valuation date, is the marital pot. The fight is over when you stop pouring assets into that pot. So what is this date? In a perfect world, it would be a simple, universally agreed upon day. But we're talking about divorce, which is rarely simple. The truth is, the valuation date can be one of several different dates, and which one is chosen can become one of the most fiercely contested points in a divorce negotiation. Let's look at the main contenders. The most common, and often the most logical sounding, is the date of separation. This is the day the marriage effectively ended, even if you're not legally divorced yet. It's the day one of you moved out, or you both agreed to live separate lives. The argument for this date is strong. Once you've separated, you're no longer operating as a financial unit. Any money you earn and contribute to your 401k after this date is from your own separate effort, not the marital partnership. Feels fair, right? But here's the problem. What legally constitutes a date of separation? Is it the day you had the big fight and one of you slept on the couch? Is it the day you told your friends you were splitting up? Is it the day one of you rented a new apartment? Different states have different definitions, and some are incredibly vague. It can become a messy he said, she said situation. A spouse might argue the separation date was January 1st, while the other insists they were still trying to work things out and the real separation wasn't until June 1st. Why would they fight over those 6 months? Because of what can happen to a 401k in 6 months. Let's imagine a couple, Mark and Lisa. Mark has a 401k worth $800,000. They have a huge fight on New Year's Day and Mark moves into his brother's spare room. He considers this the date of separation. Lisa, however, feels they were still in counseling and trying to reconcile until June, when she finally filed for divorce. Between January and June, the stock market has a fantastic run. Mark's 401k, through no action of his own other than just being invested, grows by $100,000. It's now worth $900,000. This is what's known as passive appreciation. He didn't add that money, the market did. If Mark's lawyer successfully argues for the January 1st date of separation, the marital pot is valued at $800,000. Lisa would be entitled to a share of that. But if Lisa's lawyer successfully argues for the June 1st date of filing, the marital pot is valued at $900,000. That $100,000 of passive growth is now on the table, and Lisa's potential share just went up by $50,000. You can see why this single date becomes a legal battleground. Tens of thousands of dollars are hanging in the balance, based on nothing more than which month the court decides the marriage was officially over. Now let's flip the script. What if the market had crashed? What if Mark's 401k dropped from $800,000 in January to $700,000 by June? In that scenario, Mark would be arguing for the later date, wanting to split the smaller $700,000 pot. Lisa would be fighting tooth and nail for the earlier date, wanting her share calculated from the higher $800,000 value. It's a high-stakes game of financial chicken, and the outcome depends entirely on the direction of the market and the specific laws of your state. This brings us to the other potential valuation dates. Some states don't like the ambiguity of the date of separation. To make things cleaner, their laws might default to the date of filing the divorce petition. This is a hard verifiable date. It's on the court documents. There's no arguing about it. This removes the he said, she said aspect, but it can feel unfair to the spouse who feels the marriage was over long before any papers were ever filed. Then there's another possibility: the date of the final divorce decree. This is the day the judge signs the final papers and you are officially legally divorced. This date is often many months, sometimes even more than a year, after the initial separation or filing. Using this date means that all market fluctuations, both gains and losses, that occur during the entire divorce process are shared by both spouses. Proponents say this is the fairest method, as the asset was marital when the process started, so both parties should share in the risk and reward until the process is completely finished. Opponents argue that it forces them to be financially tied to their ex's investment choices for a year or more, after they've already separated their lives. So which date does your state use? It varies wildly. Community property states like California, for example, place a very heavy emphasis on the date of separation. Once you are separated, your earnings and the assets you acquire are generally considered your separate property. Therefore, post-separation contributions to a 401k and the growth on those specific contributions are typically yours alone. However, the passive growth or loss on the existing marital balance might still be considered marital. It gets complicated. In contrast, an equitable distribution state like New York might lean towards using the date the divorce action was commenced, the date of filing. Other states might have laws that give the judge broad discretion to pick a date that they believe is the most just and equitable, under the specific circumstances of the case. This means you could spend thousands of dollars in legal fees just arguing over which date to use, with the final decision left in the hands of a judge. But here is the most important takeaway, and it's a piece of advice that can save you an immense amount of stress and money. This date is almost always negotiable. You and your spouse, through your lawyers or a mediator, can agree on a valuation date. You don't have to leave it up to a judge. You can look at the account statements, consider the market's performance, and come to a compromise. Maybe you split the difference. Maybe one person agrees to use a specific date in exchange for a concession on another asset, like keeping the family car. Reaching an agreement on the valuation date gives you control over your own financial future. It prevents the outcome from being a lottery based on market timing and a judge's discretion. But agreeing on the value is only half the battle. Once you've picked a date and calculated the exact dollar amount that the non-employee spouse is owed, how do you actually get that money out of a protected retirement account without incurring massive taxes and penalties? You can't just write a check. This requires a very special, very powerful, and very easy to mess up legal document. It's an instrument so critical that getting it wrong can cause the entire financial settlement to collapse. This document is called a Qualified Domestic Relations Order. You'll almost always hear it referred to by its acronym QDRO. A QDRO spelled Q-D-R-O. It sounds technical, and it is, but understanding its role is the single most important thing you can do to protect your financial future in a divorce involving a 401k. So what exactly is this magical document? At its heart, a QDRO is a court order. It's not a suggestion, it's not a form you fill out with your spouse, and it's not part of your standard divorce decree. It is a separate, standalone judgment, signed by a judge, that instructs a retirement plan administrator to pay a portion of a plan participant's benefits to their former spouse, child, or other dependent. The person who earned the 401k is called the participant. The person receiving a share of it, the ex-spouse, is legally referred to as the alternate payee. You'll see these terms over and over again: participant and alternate payee. Now here is the magic. Here is why the QDRO is so powerful. Federal law, specifically the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, or ERISA, has a very strict rule. It's called an anti-alienation provision. This rule says that your 401k benefits cannot be assigned or given away to anyone else for any reason. It's a fortress built to protect your retirement savings from creditors, from lawsuits, from almost everything. There is, however, one very specific exception to this fortress rule. One key that unlocks the gate. And that key is a Qualified Domestic Relations Order. A QDRO is the only legal instrument that can pierce that protective shield and allow a 401k plan to pay benefits to someone other than the employee who earned them, without triggering a financial catastrophe. Without a QDRO, if you, the participant, tried to take out, say, $100,000 to give to your ex-spouse, the plan would treat it as an early distribution. They'd be legally required to withhold 20% for federal taxes right off the top. So you'd only get $80,000. Then you'd likely have to pay state income tax. And if you're under age 59 and a half, the IRS would hit you with a 10% early withdrawal penalty. That $100,000 settlement just cost you $30,000 or $40,000, or even more, in taxes and penalties. It's a disaster. The QDRO tells the IRS and the plan administrator, stand down. This is different. This is a court-ordered division of a marital asset in a divorce. It creates a special, protected pathway for the money to move from the participant's account to the alternate payee. It completely bypasses the 10% early withdrawal penalty, and it avoids the mandatory 20% tax withholding. This is absolutely critical. The QDRO preserves the full pre-tax value of the asset being divided. Let's break down the name itself because every word matters. Qualified. This means the order must meet a very strict set of requirements laid out by the IRS and the Department of Labor. It can't just be a simple note from a judge. It has to contain specific information and, just as importantly, it cannot contain certain other things. If it isn't qualified, the plan administrator will reject it. End of story. Domestic Relations Order. This means it must be an order issued by a state court as part of a divorce, legal separation, or child support proceeding. It's a legal command, not a financial product you can buy. So, how does this actually happen? The process itself is a minefield of procedural details. First, your divorce agreement, the marital settlement agreement, will state the terms. It will say something like, the wife, the alternate payee, is awarded 50% of the husband's, the participant's, 401k account balance as of the date of divorce. But that sentence does not divide the account. It only creates the legal obligation to divide it. It's the instruction manual, not the tool. The tool is the QDRO. Next, a separate QDRO document must be drafted. This is not a do-it-yourself project. While some online services offer cheap templates, this is one of the most dangerous places to try and save a few $100s. A poorly drafted QDRO can be rejected by the plan, cost you thousands in legal fees to fix, or worse, have unintended consequences that don't show up for years. Typically, one of the divorce attorneys, or often a specialized QDRO attorney, will draft the order. This draft should then be sent to the 401k's plan administrator for pre-approval before it gets sent to the judge. This is a step that is missed all the time, and it's a catastrophic mistake. Why? Because every single 401k plan has its own specific rules and procedures for what they will and will not accept in a QDRO. The plan administrator for a tech company in California might have completely different requirements than one for a manufacturing company in Ohio. Sending the draft to them first allows them to review it and say, "Yes, this meets our requirements," or "No, you need to change paragraph 3 to comply with our plan documents." Getting this pre-approval saves an incredible amount of time, money, and heartache. Once the plan administrator has given their informal blessing, the QDRO is then submitted to the family court judge. The judge signs it, and it becomes an official, legally binding court order. But you're still not done. That signed order must then be sent back to the plan administrator for final processing. They will formally qualify the order, meaning they officially accept it as valid. Only then will they actually segregate the funds. The plan administrator will create a new, separate account within the 401k plan in the name of the alternate payee, the ex-spouse. The ordered amount, let's say it was $150,000, is then moved from the participant's account into this new account. It's now officially the alternate payee's money. It is their own retirement account and they have control over it. To be considered qualified, there is specific information that a QDRO absolutely must contain. It needs the name and last known mailing address of both the participant and the alternate payee. It needs the name of the specific retirement plan it's trying to divide. You can't just say the 401k from his job, you need the official plan name. It also has to clearly state the dollar amount or the percentage of the benefit to be paid, and how that amount is calculated. There can be no ambiguity. Equally important is what a QDRO cannot do. A QDRO cannot require a plan to provide any type or form of benefit that isn't offered under the plan's rules. For example, if the 401k plan does not allow for lump sum distributions, the QDRO cannot force them to pay one out. It cannot require the plan to provide increased benefits, calculated in some weird way. And it can't order the plan to pay benefits to one alternate payee that have already been promised to a different alternate payee from a previous divorce. The plan administrator is the ultimate gatekeeper here. Their job, their legal fiduciary duty, is to protect the plan and all of its participants. They follow the plan rules to the absolute letter. They will not bend the rules, and a flawed QDRO will be rejected without a second thought, sending you right back to square one, often with the clock ticking on important deadlines. This is the machinery that makes the whole settlement work, and if one gear is out of place, the entire thing can grind to a halt. So once that money is sitting in the alternate payee's new account, what happens next? What can they do with it? The options they have are incredibly important, and they come with their own set of life-altering financial consequences. The first and most straightforward option is to simply do nothing. That's right. Once the QDRO creates a new separate account for the alternate payee, the ex-spouse, within the original 401k plan, they can often just leave the money right where it is. It's now their account, legally severed from their ex-spouse, and it will continue to grow tax-deferred, based on the investment choices made within that plan. This is the path of least resistance. It requires no paperwork, no new accounts, no immediate decisions. It's easy, but easy is rarely optimal. The downsides can be significant. First, you're stuck with the investment options of your ex-spouse's employer. If their company's 401k plan has limited choices or high fees, you're stuck with them too. Second, you can't contribute any new money to this account. It's a static piece of your financial past, a ship in a bottle. You can manage the investments inside it, but you can't add to it to accelerate its growth. And finally, for some, there's an emotional component. Many people don't want any remaining financial tie, however small, to an ex-spouse's place of employment. They want a completely clean break, and leaving their retirement funds in that old plan doesn't feel like a clean break at all. This leads us to the second, and by far the most common and strategically sound option, the rollover. A rollover is the process of moving retirement funds from one qualified plan to another without triggering any taxes or penalties. It's like moving your money from one bank to another. The government sees it as a transfer, not a withdrawal. The alternate payee has a golden opportunity to take control of their financial future here. They can execute what's called a direct rollover, where the funds are moved directly from the 401k plan to a new retirement account in their name. This is critical. The money should never be sent to them personally in the form of a check if the goal is to roll it over. A direct trustee-to-trustee transfer is the clean, foolproof way to do it. So where can they roll it to? The primary destination is an individual retirement arrangement, better known as an IRA. Moving the money from the 401k into a personal IRA is like moving out of a company-owned apartment with a fixed menu and into your own custom-built house with a world-class kitchen. The freedom is immense. Instead of being limited to the 10 or 20 mutual funds offered by the 401k plan, an IRA at a major brokerage opens up a universe of investment choices, individual stocks, bonds, thousands of ETFs, mutual funds, real estate investment trusts, you name it. You gain complete control over your investments and, just as importantly, the fees you pay. You can shop for the lowest cost funds and build a portfolio that is perfectly tailored to your risk tolerance and your retirement goals, not the generic ones offered by your ex's company. For anyone wanting to consolidate their assets and take active management of their retirement, the IRA rollover is the undisputed champion of choices. Alternatively, if the alternate payee has a job with their own 401k or 403b plan, they might be able to roll the money into that plan. This can be a good option for people who value simplicity. It keeps all their retirement funds under one roof, with one statement and one login. It simplifies their financial life. However, they are once again subjecting their money to the rules, fees, and limited investment options of their new employer's plan. It's often a better choice than leaving it in the old plan, but it rarely offers the same level of freedom and control as a personal IRA. Now we must discuss the third option, the one that's tempting, the one that's often needed in the chaos following a divorce, and the one that is fraught with the most financial peril: cashing out. Taking the money as a cash distribution. Under normal circumstances, if you take money out of a 401k before you turn 59 and a half, you get hit with a brutal 10% early withdrawal penalty from the IRS, on top of paying ordinary income taxes on the entire amount. It's a double whammy designed to keep you from raiding your retirement savings. But a QDRO has a secret built-in superpower. It provides a one-time, unique exception to this rule. An alternate payee receiving funds via QDRO can take a cash distribution from the plan and completely avoid the 10% early withdrawal penalty, regardless of their age. For someone who is 40 years old and needs cash to put a down payment on a new house or pay off crippling attorney's fees, this can sound like a godsend. No 10% penalty? Feels like free money. But this is one of the most dangerous financial traps in the entire divorce process. While you escape the 10% penalty, you absolutely do not escape the taxes. That distribution is considered ordinary income, and it will be taxed as such. And it gets worse. The plan administrator is required by federal law to automatically withhold 20% of the distribution for taxes before they even send you the check. Let's walk through a real-world example because the numbers are staggering. Imagine Sarah is 45 years old and is awarded $200,000 from her ex-husband's 401k through a QDRO. She needs cash desperately to start her new life. She decides to cash out the full amount. The first thing that happens is the plan administrator cuts a check, but it's not for $200,000. They are legally required to withhold 20%, which is $40,000, and send that directly to the IRS. So, a check for $160,000 arrives in Sarah's mailbox. She might think, okay, I lost $40,000 to taxes, but I have $160,000 to work with. She would be wrong. The 20% withholding is just a down payment on her actual tax bill. That entire $200,000 is now added to her other income for the year. Let's say Sarah has a job where she earns $60,000. For tax purposes, her income for that year isn't $60,000. It's now $260,000. This massive spike in income will almost certainly launch her into a much higher federal tax bracket. Let's assume her effective federal tax rate on that extra $200,000 averages out to 24%. That means the actual federal tax she owes on the distribution is $48,000. The government already has the $40,000 that was withheld, but at tax time, she will get a bill from the IRS for the remaining $8,000. And we haven't even mentioned state taxes. If Sarah lives in a state with a 5% income tax, that's another $10,000 she owes. $200,000 times 5%. So let's do the final painful math. From her $200,000 retirement award, Sarah will ultimately pay $48,000 in federal taxes and $10,000 in state taxes, for a total tax bill of $58,000. Her $200,000 nest egg has been instantly and permanently reduced to just $142,000. She has lost nearly 30% of her retirement savings in the blink of an eye. But the true loss is even greater. The real tragedy isn't just the $58,000 that vanished. It's the future growth of that entire $200,000 that has been annihilated. If that money had been rolled over and left to grow for 20 years until her retirement, even at a modest rate of return, it could have easily become $600,000 or $700,000. By cashing out, she didn't just spend $200,000. She spent the $700,000 her future self was depending on. It is a decision that can create a permanent, unrecoverable financial scar. So the choice is stark. Leave it and accept limitations, move it and take control, or cash it out and pay a devastating price. For the vast majority of people, the rollover is the only path that preserves the wealth they fought so hard to secure in the divorce. But this entire process gets 1,000 times more complicated if there's an outstanding loan against the 401k. What happens to that debt? Who pays it? And can it completely derail the entire division of assets? The answer is complicated, and it's a trap that ensnares thousands of divorcing couples. Let's dissect this trap because it's built on a simple, dangerous assumption. The trap is born when a couple looks at a 401k statement, sees a big, beautiful number, say $200,000, and agrees to split it down the middle. $100,000 for you, $100,000 for me. Seems fair, it seems simple. The divorce decree is written up, the judge signs it, and everyone thinks the deal is done. But it's not. Because what wasn't on that main summary page of the statement, what was buried in the fine print or on a separate loan disclosure, was the fact that the spouse who owned the account had taken out a $50,000 loan against it 2 years ago to put a new roof on the house. So, while the account's gross value is $200,000, the actual liquid, distributable value is only $150,000. The $50,000 loan is like a lien, a debt that sits against the account. The plan administrator cannot and will not pay out money that is effectively already spoken for. Think of it this way. It's like agreeing to sell your house. The market value is $500,000, and you and your spouse agreed to split that value $250,000 each. But you have a $400,000 mortgage. The reality is, there is only $100,000 of equity in the house. You can't give your spouse $250,000 because that money doesn't exist. It belongs to the bank. A 401k loan is the mortgage on your retirement account. It must be accounted for. When the QDRO, that special court order, arrives at the 401k plan administrator's office, they don't just look at the divorce decree. They look at the real numbers inside the account. They see the $200,000 balance, but they also see the $50,000 loan obligation. They can only divide the net amount. So, instead of cutting a check or rolling over the $100,000 the receiving spouse was promised and is legally owed according to the divorce decree, they can only transfer $75,000. That's 50% of the actual $150,000 of equity. Suddenly, the receiving spouse is short $25,000. Their financial plan, their ability to get a down payment for a new apartment, their entire post-divorce budget, is thrown into chaos. And what follows is a nightmare. They have to go back to their lawyer, who then has to file a motion with the court to enforce the decree. It means more legal fees, more stress, more fighting, all because of a number that was essentially a phantom. Now, how is this supposed to be handled? In most states and in most fair negotiations, the 401k loan is treated as a marital debt, just like a credit card balance or a car loan. The $50,000 loan was taken out during the marriage, and the money was likely used for a shared marital expense like that new roof. Therefore, the debt belongs to both parties. The proper way to calculate the division is to take the total marital value of the account. Let's stick with our $200,000. Subtract the outstanding loan of $50,000, which leaves you with a net divisible value of $150,000. That is the number you split. So, each spouse is entitled to $75,000 from the 401k. The spouse who took the loan, let's call him the employee spouse, is then left with his $75,000 share inside his 401k, but he is also still solely responsible for repaying that $50,000 loan, usually through payroll deductions. When he finishes repaying it, his account balance will grow accordingly. The other spouse, the non-employee, gets their $75,000 clean, with no strings attached. That is the equitable and legally sound way to handle it. The total marital asset, the $150,000 in equity, was split perfectly. The total marital debt, the $50,000 loan, is being handled by the person legally obligated to pay it. The trap springs when this isn't done. It happens in two scenarios. First, in a high-conflict divorce, one spouse might intentionally try to hide the existence of the loan, hoping the other side won't do their due diligence. They present the statement showing the big number, and conveniently leave out the loan documents. The second, and far more common scenario, is simple ignorance. An amicable couple trying to do their divorce themselves, or with inexperienced attorneys, just doesn't know to ask the question. They see the $200,000, they split the $200,000, and they codify a mathematical impossibility into a legally binding document. This creates a brutal situation for the receiving spouse. They are legally entitled to $100,000, but the account can physically only give them $75,000. The only way to get that other $25,000 is to get it from the other spouse from a different asset, if there even is another asset. It can force the sale of a home or the liquidation of other investments. It becomes a messy, expensive, and emotionally draining process of asset tracing to make things right. But there's another layer of risk here. What happens if the employee's spouse, who is responsible for repaying the loan, loses their job after the divorce, or just decides to stop paying? If they stop making payments, the plan administrator will declare the loan to be in default. When that happens, the entire outstanding loan balance, that $50,000, is deemed a taxable distribution. It's treated as if they just cashed out that portion of their 401k. This triggers a massive and immediate tax bill for that spouse. They will owe ordinary income tax on the full $50,000. And if they are under the age of 59 and a half, they will also be hit with a 10% early withdrawal penalty. That's another $5,000 just vanished into thin air, owed to the IRS. This sudden financial calamity can devastate the paying spouse's ability to meet other obligations, like alimony or child support. Their financial implosion creates shockwaves that absolutely can hit the other spouse, even years after the divorce was finalized. So how do you protect yourself from this? It's about asking one simple, critical question and demanding the proof. The question is there an outstanding loan against this 401k? Don't just accept a no. Demand a recent, complete statement from the plan that explicitly shows the account balance and any loan balance. Most plan administrators can provide a divorce valuation statement that clearly lists all of these components. If your spouse is resistant to providing this, it is a massive red flag. Then, ensure your settlement agreement is written with surgical precision. It should not just say 50% of the account balance. It should say 50% of the account balance net of any outstanding loans as of the date of separation. That single legal phrase, net of any outstanding loans, is the shield that protects you from the phantom money trap. It forces the calculation to be based on reality, on the actual cash equity in the account, not the inflated number on a summary page. It's a multi-$1,000 sentence that can save you a year of your life in court. But even if you've navigated the loan trap perfectly, there's another hidden layer that can shrink the divisible pot of money even further. It's called a vesting schedule. And what it means is that even though the account statement says there's $200,000 in there, a huge chunk of it might not even belong to your spouse yet. It belongs to their employer. How do you figure out what's real and what's just a promise? The answer lies in two words that can be worth tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Vesting schedule. You absolutely have to get your hands on the company's 401k Summary Plan Description, or SPD. This is the official rulebook. It's not a suggestion. It's the legally binding document that governs how the plan works, and inside it, you will find the vesting schedule. There are two main types you'll encounter. The first is called cliff vesting. Imagine you're climbing a sheer rock face. For the first few years you get nothing. Then, on one specific day you reach the top of the cliff and bam! You get everything. 100%. A common cliff vesting schedule is 3 years. This means if your spouse works at their company for 2 years, 11 months and 29 days, and then quits or is let go, they are entitled to exactly zero of their employer's matching contributions. It all goes back to the company, but on the day they hit their 3-year anniversary, the entire match, every single dollar the company has ever put in, is theirs to keep. Now think about what this means in a divorce. If the date of separation happens 1 week before that 3-year cliff, that entire employer match, which might look like a huge number on the statement, is effectively ghost money. It's not a marital asset because it doesn't legally belong to your spouse yet. It's a promise, not a possession. Negotiating a settlement based on the total account balance without knowing this would be a catastrophic mistake. The second and often more common type is graded vesting, sometimes called graduated vesting. Instead of a cliff, picture a set of stairs. With each year of service, you take another step up, and a bigger percentage of the employer's money becomes yours. A very common schedule is a 6-year graded plan. It might look something like this. After year 1, you're 0% vested. After your second anniversary, you're 20% vested. After year 3, 40%. Year 4, 60%. Year 5, 80%. And finally, after 6 full years of service, you are 100% vested. Let's walk through a real-world example. Let's say your spouse's 401k statement shows a total balance of $150,000. Of that, $100,000 is their own contributions and earnings on those contributions. The other $50,000 is the employer match and its earnings. Your spouse has worked at the company for 4.5 years. If you just look at the $150,000 total, you might think the marital portion is straightforward. But wait, you get the summary plan description and discover they have that 6-year graded vesting schedule. At 4.5 years of service, they are only 60% vested in the employer's money. So the real, legally owned portion of that $50,000 match is not $50,000. It's $30,000. The other $20,000 is still sitting in the account, making the statement balance look bigger, but it doesn't belong to your spouse. It belongs to their employer. The actual marital asset in that 401k isn't $150,000. It's the $100,000 of their own money plus the $30,000 of the vested match, for a total of $130,000. That's a $20,000 difference. In a 50-50 split, that's a $10,000 error. Forgetting to check the vesting schedule is like willingly giving away $10,000 for no reason. This is why you cannot, under any circumstances, just take a 401k statement at face value. The total balance is often a work of fiction until you apply the vesting rules. You must get the plan documents. You can usually find the SPD on the Employees Benefits portal online, or you can formally request it from the company's HR department or the plan administrator. In a divorce, this is a standard part of the financial discovery process. And this principle extends far beyond just 401ks. Many executives and tech employees receive a huge portion of their compensation in things like restricted stock units, or RSUs, and stock options. These almost always come with vesting schedules. An RSU is basically a promise from the company to give you a share of stock on a future date, provided you're still an employee. A stock option is the right to buy a share of stock at a locked-in price, but that right also only becomes available to you over time. The fight in a divorce often centers on this. How do you treat RSUs or options that were granted during the marriage but haven't vested yet by the time of the divorce? Is that future potential money a marital asset? This is where state law gets incredibly complex and frankly a bit murky. There's no single nationwide rule. However, many courts follow a logic that sounds something like this. If the work that earned the right to that future asset was performed during the marriage, then the asset itself is, at least in part, marital property. Think of it like a farmer who plants a field of corn while he's married. The divorce happens in July, but the harvest isn't until October. Is that future harvest a marital asset? The seeds were sown, the ground was tilled, and the crop was tended to during the marriage. Most courts would say yes, the value of that future harvest should be part of the marital estate. They apply a similar logic to unvested stock or 401k contributions. Courts in many states will use a mathematical formula, often called a time rule or a coverture fraction, to determine the marital share. The formula essentially creates a fraction. The top number is the amount of time the employee was participating in the plan while married. The bottom number is the total time required for the asset to fully vest. Let's say your spouse was granted 1,000 RSUs that vest in full after 4 years. You were married for the first 3 of those 4 years before separating. The court might apply a time rule formula and say that since 75% of the work required for that grant to vest happened during the marriage, 3 years out of 4, then 75% of those RSUs are marital property. So 750 of those shares would be subject to division, even though they haven't technically vested yet. This becomes a massive point of negotiation. The employee spouse will argue, "I have to keep working here for another year to get that. If I quit tomorrow, it's all worth zero. It's future income, not a current asset." The non-employee spouse will argue, "But the foundation for that grant, the 3 years of hard work and sacrifice that our family made, happened while we were together. That value was created during our partnership." Both sides have a point, which is why this is so heavily litigated. The key takeaway is that you cannot ignore unvested assets. They have a potential future value that was, in part, created during the marriage. Ignoring them is like leaving a winning lottery ticket on the table, just because you haven't cashed it in yet. So, the first step is always investigation. You have to become a financial detective. Get the statements, but more importantly, get the summary plan description. Read the vesting schedule. For every single retirement account, stock plan, or pension, you must ask 3 questions. 1. What is the total stated value? 2. What portion of that value is actually vested and legally owned right now? And 3. What is the unvested portion? And what are the rules and timelines that govern it? Only when you have the answers to all three can you begin to understand the true size of the marital pie you're about to divide. So now you've done the hard work. You've dissected the statement, you understand vesting, and you've calculated the true marital portion of the 401k. You've agreed on a number. The next step feels like a simple formality, drafting the QDRO and sending it in. But this is where the most devastating, irreversible mistakes are made. What are the hidden landmines in the QDRO itself that can cause you to lose tens, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, or get hit with a crippling tax bill you never saw coming? Let's begin with the most common and costly mistake: treating the QDRO like a simple checkbox on the divorce paperwork. It's not a form you just fill out. It is a highly specific, legally binding court order, and every single word matters. A generic boilerplate QDRO is an invitation for disaster. Why? Because every 401k plan is different. A QDRO that works perfectly for an employee at Google will be instantly rejected by the plan administrator at Microsoft. They have their own rules, their own procedures, and their own required legal language. Using a one-size-fits-all template is like trying to use your house key to start your car. It will not work, and you'll be stranded. The first landmine is the valuation date. This sounds boring and technical, but get this wrong and it could cost you a fortune. The valuation date is the specific day and time that is used to determine the value of the marital portion of the 401k. Your divorce decree might say something simple like, the 401k will be divided as of the date of separation. Let's say you separated on January 1st, and on that day, the marital portion of the 401k was worth exactly $200,000. So the ex-spouse is entitled to $100,000. Simple, right? Wrong. The divorce isn't final on January 1st. The lawyers go back and forth. The QDRO isn't drafted, signed by the judge, and sent to the plan administrator until September 1st. What happened to the stock market between January and September? Let's say it was a great year, and the market went up 20%. That $200,000 marital share is now worth $240,000. Does the ex-spouse get the $100,000 from the January value, or do they get $120,000, which is 50% of the current value? If the QDRO is poorly written and just says, a lump sum of $100,000, then the ex-spouse just lost out on $20,000 of growth that their money earned. The account holder gets to keep it. Now flip it. What if the market crashed 20%? That $200,000 marital share is now only worth $160,000. If the QDRO says the ex-spouse gets a flat $100,000, they are now getting more than half of the account's current marital value. The account holder is getting hammered, paying out a value that no longer exists. This single detail, whether the division is a fixed dollar amount or a percentage that floats with the market, is a point of brutal contention. A well-drafted QDRO eliminates this ambiguity. It will clearly state that the awarded amount will be adjusted for any investment gains or losses that occur between the official valuation date and the date the money is actually segregated into a separate account for the receiving spouse. Without that clause, you're gambling with your retirement. The second landmine is the issue of outstanding 401k loans. This is a huge one. Millions of Americans borrow from their 401ks. Let's imagine the account holder has a total 401k balance of $600,000. But 2 years ago, they took out a $100,000 loan to renovate the kitchen. So the account statement shows a total value of $600,000, but the actual amount invested in the market is only $500,000. The divorce decree says the ex-spouse gets 50% of the account. Is that 50% of the full $600,000, which is $300,000? Or is it 50% of the $500,000 that's actually invested, which is $250,000? That's a $50,000 question. If the QDRO is silent on the loan, chaos ensues. The receiving spouse expects $300,000, but the plan administrator can only transfer funds from the invested portion. They can't transfer half of a loan, so they might reject the QDRO for being impossible to execute, sending you back to court. Or they might interpret it in a way that devastates one party. The correct way to handle this is for the QDRO to explicitly state how the loan is treated. Typically, the loan is considered a marital debt that is assigned to the participant, the person who took it out. The division is then calculated based on the total account value before the loan is subtracted. So, in our example, the calculation would be based on the $600,000 value. The ex-spouse gets their $300,000, and the account holder is left with the remaining $200,000 in investments and the full responsibility for paying back the $100,000 loan. If this isn't spelled out in black and white, you are signing up for a world of pain and legal fees. Next up is landmine number 3, survivor benefits. This is where things get truly grim. A 401k plan names a beneficiary, the person who gets the money if the account holder dies. While you're married, your spouse is typically that beneficiary by default. But the moment that divorce decree is signed, they are legally no longer your spouse. Let's say the QDRO is signed by the judge, but there's a delay in getting it processed by the 401k plan administrator, sitting on someone's desk. During that limbo period, the account holder tragically dies in a car accident. What happens to the money promised to the ex-spouse? If the QDRO was not specifically written to designate the ex-spouse as a surviving spouse, for the purposes of the awarded benefit, they could get absolutely nothing. Zero. The entire 401k balance could go to the person named as the new beneficiary on the plan documents, maybe a child or a new partner. The ex-spouse claim, even though it's in a court order, could be extinguished by the death of the participant. A properly drafted QDRO closes this terrifying loophole. It contains specific legal language that preserves the ex-spouse rights, ensuring they are treated as a surviving spouse for their portion of the funds, no matter what happens. Overlooking this is a catastrophic and sadly common error. The fourth landmine is what I call the kitchen sink problem, and it has to do with what is actually being divided. A 401k account isn't just one big pile of money. It's often a mix of different types of funds and assets. There can be pre-tax contributions, Roth 401k contributions which are post-tax, company matching funds that have a vesting schedule, and a profit-sharing component. A lazy QDRO will just say, divide the account 50/50ths. The plan administrator then has to decide how to do that. Do they give the ex-spouse 50% of each individual holding? Or do they just sell off whatever is convenient to generate the cash? This can have major tax consequences. If they disproportionately sell off the pre-tax funds to pay the ex-spouse, the account holder could be left with a concentrated position in Roth funds, changing their future tax strategy. More importantly, what about unvested funds? Most company matches don't belong to you until you've worked there for a certain number of years. If part of the 401k is unvested, it technically isn't a marital asset yet. A good QDRO will specify exactly how to handle these different buckets of money. It might state that the division should be done pro rata, meaning the ex-spouse gets the same percentage of every single type of fund, pre-tax, Roth, and vested company shares, ensuring a truly fair split. It will also clarify how to handle any unvested portion, for instance, by stating that it will be divided if and when it becomes vested. All of these landmines, the valuation date, the loans, the survivor benefits, the mix of assets, point to one undeniable truth. The biggest mistake of all is thinking you, or even your general practice divorce attorney, can do this alone. Drafting a QDRO is a subspecialty of a subspecialty of the law. There are attorneys in specialized firms that do nothing else all day, every day but draft these documents. They know the specific required language for every major 401k plan administrator in the country. They know the traps. They know how to protect you. Trying to save a few hundred or a couple of $1,000s by using a generic template or an inexperienced lawyer is the definition of being penny-wise and pound-foolish when $100,000 or more is on the line. So you've navigated this minefield. You hired a specialist. You have a perfect, ironclad QDRO that addresses all these issues. The judge has signed it, and the plan administrator has formally approved it. The money is legally yours. You're finally safe, right? Not even close. The final step, the physical act of moving the money from their 401k into an account that you control, is where one wrong click, one bad piece of advice, can trigger a tax and penalty nightmare that instantly vaporizes up to 30% of your settlement. How do you execute this final transfer flawlessly and protect every single dollar you are owed? The answer is a single, profoundly powerful legal document. It's not your divorce decree. It's not a handshake agreement. It is the one and only key that unlocks a 401k in a divorce without setting off a tax bomb. It's called a QDRO. That's QDRO, a qualified domestic relations order. And understanding what it is, how it works, and most importantly, how to get it done right, is the single most important financial skill you will learn during this entire process. A QDRO is a special court order, separate from your main divorce judgment, that speaks a language your 401k plan administrator understands and is legally required to obey. Think of it this way: your 401k is governed by strict federal laws. primarily a massive piece of legislation called ERISA. These laws are designed to protect your retirement savings from creditors, from lawsuits, and even from you making rash decisions. They create a nearly impenetrable fortress around that money. The default rule is that money cannot leave a 401k before retirement without triggering taxes and a 10% early withdrawal penalty. A QDRO is the secret password that tells the guards at the fortress. This isn't a normal withdrawal. This is a court-ordered division of marital property due to a divorce. The IRS has created a special exception for this exact situation. Stand down, open the gates, and let the specified amount pass through without penalty. Without a QDRO, any attempt to get that money out is catastrophic. Let's imagine your ex-spouse is supposed to give you $100,000 from their 401k. If they don't use a QDRO and just try to withdraw the money to hand it to you, it's treated as a personal distribution to them. So, on that $100,000, they would immediately owe a 10% early withdrawal penalty, which is $10,000. Then, that $100,000 is added to their income for the year. If they are in a 22% federal tax bracket and a 5% state tax bracket, that's another $27,000 in taxes. Suddenly, to get you your $100,000, they've had to pay $37,000 in taxes and penalties. The $100,000 withdrawal only nets them $63,000. To actually get you the full $100,000, they would have to withdraw nearly $160,000 from their account, vaporizing a huge chunk of their retirement savings just to make you whole. It's an absolute disaster. But with a properly executed QDRO, the process is clean. The order instructs the plan to take that $100,000 and move it directly to an account you control. There is no 10% penalty. There are no immediate taxes withheld. The full, unadulterated $100,000 is transferred. It is the only legally recognized method to perform this financial surgery with precision, protecting both parties from a tax bloodbath. So how do you get one? This is where so many people make a critical, life-altering mistake. They assume their divorce lawyer just handles it. They think it's just another form to be filed with the divorce papers. This is dangerously wrong. A QDRO is a hyper-specialized document. It is not family law. It is federal pension law. And every single 401k plan has its own unique, maddeningly specific set of rules for what a QDRO must contain. A QDRO that works for an IBM 401k will be instantly rejected by the administrator for a Google 401k. The correct process has several non-negotiable steps. First, the QDRO must be drafted. This should almost never be done by your primary divorce attorney, unless they are a rare specialist in this field. Typically, you need a dedicated QDRO attorney or a specialized QDRO preparation firm. They do nothing else. They live and breathe the language of ERISA and have experience dealing with thousands of different retirement plans. Your divorce agreement will state that the 401k will be divided and by how much, but it's the QDRO specialist who translates that intention into the precise legal language the plan administrator requires. Second, and this is the step that saves people from months or even years of post-divorce misery, the draft QDRO must be sent to the 401k plan administrator for pre-approval. You are essentially asking the gatekeeper, before we get a judge to sign this and make it official, will you accept this document as written? Does it meet all of your plan's specific requirements? The plan administrator will review it line by line. They'll check if it correctly identifies the plan, the participant, the alternate payee, that's you, the receiving spouse. They'll verify the amount or percentage is calculated correctly. They'll ensure it doesn't ask the plan to do something it's not allowed to do, like pay out a benefit in a form the plan doesn't offer. If they find a problem, they will reject the draft and explain what needs to be fixed. This back and forth happens before the divorce is final. The QDRO specialist makes the corrections and resubmits it until the plan administrator gives their blessing, their official pre-approval. Only then do you move to the third step, getting the judge's signature. With the pre-approved draft in hand, you present it to the court. The judge signs it, and it becomes a legally binding order. This is often a simple formality once the parties have agreed and the plan has pre-approved it. Fourth and finally, you send the certified, court-signed copy of the QDRO back to the plan administrator. Because they have already pre-approved the language, they will now accept and qualify the order. At this point, they are legally bound to follow its instructions. They will then segregate the funds from your ex-spouse's account and begin the process of transferring them to you. Failing to follow this sequence is financial malpractice. The biggest horror stories come from couples who get their divorce decree, Have a judge sign a generic template QDRO their lawyer downloaded from the internet, and then send it to the plan administrator for the first time after the divorce is final. The administrator rejects it. The lawyer tries to fix it, but they don't know the plan's rules, so it gets rejected again. Meanwhile, the market is fluctuating, tensions are rising, and the case is closed, so getting back in front of a judge is difficult and expensive. It can turn into a legal and financial nightmare that drags on for years, all because they skipped the pre-approval step. Another catastrophic mistake is not being specific enough. A well-drafted QDRO doesn't just state a dollar amount. It specifies how investment gains or losses on that amount will be handled between the date of the divorce and the date the funds are actually transferred, which can be months later. If the market soars, are you entitled to the gains on your portion? If it crashes, do you share in that loss? If the QDRO is silent on this, it creates a massive point of conflict and can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. A specialist knows to account for this, so the QDRO is your shield. It's your surgical tool. It's the non-negotiable bridge between your settlement agreement and the actual money landing safely in your possession. Getting it drafted by a specialist and pre-approved by the plan administrator isn't just a best practice. It is the only way to guarantee you don't become another divorce horror story, watching a huge piece of your future vanish into thin air because of a technicality. Now let's assume you've done everything perfectly. The specialist drafted the QDRO, the plan pre-approved it, the judge signed it, and you've just received a letter from the 401k administrator. They've qualified the order. The money is yours. They are ready to transfer your six-figure settlement. But where should it go? You now face the most immediate and critical financial decision of your post-divorce life. You have a very short window, often just 30 to 60 days, to make a choice. And your choice will determine whether this money becomes the foundation of your new, independent financial future, or gets systematically eroded by fees, taxes, and bad advice. So what is the absolute first move you must make the moment that money is yours?